The year was 2478. Earth was quiet. Too quiet. 5 years ago, the long war between humans and the Volari Dominion had ended. Billions were dead. Cities on Mars, Europa, and Titan had turned to ash. Earth itself had barely survived. But then, a peace treaty was signed. The Galactic Union forced both sides to agree. No more war, no more weapons, just peace. That's what the galaxy believed. But humans knew better. On a small frozen moon called Eos, hidden deep in Jupiter's shadow, a secret meeting was taking place. The stars outside looked calm, but inside the steel room, the air was heavy with tension. General Rourke stood at the head of the table. He was old, with gray hair and a long scar across his face. 10 other commanders sat around him. Men and women, some in uniform, some not. All of them had one thing in common. They didn't believe in the treaty. "The Volari think they won," Rourke said, voice low and cold. "They think we've accepted their rule, that we've become soft." He looked around the room. No one spoke. They all knew the truth. They watch our planets. They control our spaceports. They ban our weapons, and we smile. We nod. We obey. He leaned forward. "But we never stopped fighting. We just changed the way we fight." A young woman at the end of the table, Captain Ayla Chen, nodded. "The factories on Luna are still active. Quiet, hidden, but they're building. Every day." "And the training bases?" asked another commander. "Running full capacity," Ayla said. "No signals, no digital trails. We're raising a new force. They don't even know it exists." General Rourke smiled, but there was no warmth in it. The treaty was never real. It was a mask. We signed it to buy time. And now, time is almost up. Far above Earth, in orbit, a Volari battleship hovered like a dark god. The Volari were tall, armored beings with silver skin and glowing eyes. They were strong, advanced, ruthless. Commander Rithvan stood on the bridge of the ship Olos 10. His hands were behind his back. He looked down at Earth through the glass window. "Humans are weak," he said to his second officer. "They fear us. They obey because they remember the war." His officer, a younger Volari named Navaris, tilted his head. "Should we not trust the treaty, Commander?" Rithvan laughed, a cold sound. "Trust. The treaty was only to silence the Galactic Union. We will take Earth when the time is right. Let them build farms and families. When we strike, they will have nothing left." On the screen, a human child ran across a field on Earth, playing with a drone toy. "They think it's peace," Rithvan said, "but it's only the quiet before their end." Back on Earth, in a small mountain town in what used to be Colorado, a boy named Leo was playing outside. He was 12. The sky was bright. Birds sang. He kicked a rock and then stopped. Something shimmered above him. A strange object fell from the clouds. Small, silent, metallic. It hit the ground with a soft thud. Leo stepped closer. It looked like a drone, but not like the ones he knew. This one was sleek, black, and had no brand, no light, just a single red symbol. He reached out, then paused. The drone opened. A soft beep. A small screen lit up with a face. An old man with a scar. "Operation Iron Veil is active," the voice said. "Return to Shadow Point." Then the screen went dark. Leo blinked. He didn't understand what he had seen, but far away, hidden cameras had already recorded the location. The drone activated a cloaking field and disappeared. On the far side of the moon, deep underground, a massive factory hummed. Inside, machines worked day and night, but not for farming, not for peace. They were building weapons, not just guns, but walkers, drones, AI-controlled bombers, ships with cloaking drives, armor that could turn invisible. In a glass tube, a girl floated in clear liquid, muscles strong, eyes closed. A label read, "Kayla Ruiz." Unit 7 General Rourke stood outside the tank staring at her. "She's almost ready," said the scientist beside him. "She was born for this," Rourke replied. "No fear, no doubt, No mercy. In orbit, the Valari began to notice strange signals, brief silent pings across human colonies. Background noise, their tech team said. Old human systems rebooting. But it wasn't noise, it was a signal. Across Mars, Europa, Ganymede, and under the oceans of Earth, hidden bunkers lit up. Sleepers awoke. Commands were sent. In the shadows, humans had prepared. In silence, they had trained. Now the time was near. Back in the secret moon base, the meeting of human commanders ended. Rourke stood alone in the control room, watching old footage of the war, cities burning, soldiers dying, Earth crying out. He clenched his fist. "We never forgot," he whispered. "We never forgave." The lights in the room dimmed. A red symbol appeared on the screen, same as on the drone. Iron. Veil. Stage 1. Ready. Rourke smiled. This time it was real. They played their game, he said. Now it's our turn. Above the red surface of Mars, a large Valari ship floated in silence. It was called the Varnaxi, one of the biggest command vessels in the Valari fleet. Long and silver, it looked more like a blade than a ship. Inside, Commander Arshak of the Valari Dominion stood tall, his silver skin glowing in the dim blue lights of the control room. His eyes were bright with pride and arrogance. He looked at a 3D map of the solar system. The planets were marked. Human colonies shown in green. Valari patrol zones marked in red. "See this?" Arshak said, pointing to Earth and its moons. "All of it. Peaceful. Quiet. They live. They eat. They farm. But they no longer fight." His second-in-command, Sornak, looked unsure. He was younger. His voice was lower, more cautious. "But, Commander, we still see strange activity on Luna. There are zones where scanners fail, areas with no data. What if—" Arshak raised a hand to silence him. "The humans are beaten, Sornak. Their leaders signed the treaty. They destroyed their weapons. Their war is over." Sornak nodded, but a part of him didn't agree. He remembered the stories, the human resistance, the fire in their eyes even after, losing cities, families, and entire planets. They were not like other species. They were patient and dangerous. Back on Earth in the coastal city of New Lisbon, life looked normal. Shuttles flew through the sky. Farmers sold fruit in the markets. Children laughed. Valari peacekeepers walked the streets tall and cold. One human, a merchant named Dahlia, served them tea. As she poured, one Valari laughed. "Your kind has adapted well," he said. "Submission suits you." Dahlia smiled politely, but under the table, her finger tapped 3 times against the metal cup. It looked like nothing, but it was a code. Miles away, in an old train tunnel under the city, a small receiver blinked. A man in black armor checked the signal. His name was Baird. He smiled. "Stage 1 confirmed," he said into a hidden comm. "Signal verified. They're blind." Then, he disappeared into the darkness. On the far side of Saturn, Valari command officers reviewed new reports. One Valari officer stood in front of a giant screen, showing data from human zones. "Commander, we've seen movement in asteroid mining fields near Ceres," he said. "Smaller crafts, unregistered, passing through at night cycles." "Humans always wander," replied his superior. "They are disorganized, weak. But these ships leave no radiation trail, no engine heat. It's not normal." The senior officer sighed. "If they were planning something, we would know. Our sensors cover every corner." But what he didn't know was that humans had learned. They had built cold drives, engines that left no heat, no trace. Deep in space, near Neptune's orbit, a small black ship drifted slowly. Inside sat a team of 5. Quiet, focused. Among them was Kayla Ruiz, grown and trained in silence. Her eyes were sharp, her hand steady. She checked her rifle, then looked to her captain. "Target?" "Valari transport ship," he replied. "Low defense, carries food and supplies to the Mars garrison." Take it out? Kayla asked. No, he said. We shadow it. Watch. Learn. When we hit, we leave no survivors, no signals, no evidence. Kayla nodded. Understood. Her training was perfect. She had never known a world without war. She didn't understand peace. She was never meant to. In the Valari High Council chamber on their homeworld, a meeting began. Thousands of stars twinkled in the sky beyond the crystal windows. A diplomat named Vector raised a concern. I believe the humans are not as broken as we think, he said. There are signs, signals, hidden movements. The others laughed. One counselor said, You are seeing shadows. The treaty works. The humans are not our threat now. But Vector frowned. Their history tells another story. They don't surrender forever. They wait, they plan. We gave them time. That was our mistake. His words were recorded, but ignored. Back on Earth, inside a hidden bunker under the Rocky Mountains, General Rourke stood before a large screen. The queue, faces of commanders from across the colonies appeared. Mars, Europa, Callisto, Luna. All sleeper units are in position, said one voice. Factories are running at full pace. Rourke nodded. Good. Don't move yet. Let the Valari think they've won a little longer. And the AI? Asked another. Rourke turned to a glowing panel. A digital eye opened. Soft. Blue. This was Nora. Neural Operations Response AI. Are you awake? Rourke asked. Yes, General, Nora replied. All Valari communications are monitored. I am inside 73% of their fleet systems. Ready for override when you give the command. Rourke smiled. They won't even see it coming. High above, the Valari command ship Olus-10 received a weak signal from one of their listening stations on the edge of the solar system. It showed strange movement, a brief flash of light, then silence. The Valari commander brushed it off. Meteors, he said. Nothing more. But the flash wasn't from a rock. It was a test. A human-made stealth weapon had just erased a drone, without light, sound, or trace. The humans were almost ready. In a dark room on Luna, a group of human children sat in rows listening to a teacher. On the wall behind him were no alphabets, no pictures, just one sentence. The treaty is a lie. Never forget. The Valari thought they had full control. But beneath their feet, behind every smile, inside every broken city, humans were building something dangerous. Not a weapon, a movement, a quiet, growing storm. On Europa, inside a frozen canyon, a mining station sat silent, or so it seemed. Deep underground, below fake ice walls and rock, was a human facility called Red Hollow. It was not on any map. Valari scanners showed only dead stone, but inside, machines worked 24 hours a day. Gene labs, training, rooms, simulation pods, weapons testing bays. This was not a colony. This was a war hatchery. Sergeant Kayla Ruiz walked down a long hallway made of black steel. Her boots echoed as she passed other soldiers, young, sharp-eyed, calm. None of them had normal lives. None had families. They were all born and trained for one reason: take back humanity's future. Commander Baird greeted her near the lift. Your team's results came in, he said. Kayla nodded. How bad? Baird smirked. You broke another. AI in hand-to-hand training. Third one this week. Kayla didn't laugh. They need to build tougher ones. You're not normal, Kayla, Baird said quietly. You're what comes after peace fails. Back on Earth, in a hidden chamber under the old Appalachian Mountains, a group of old soldiers gathered. Some wore rags, some wore suits. All wore the same cold look in their eyes. General Rourke stood before them. The Valari think they erased our strength, he said, but they only made us smarter. He opened a metal box. Inside was a small device, circular, dark, and covered in strange lines. This is Project Hollow Sun, he said. Built in the last days of the war. They never found it. We've improved it since. A hologram lit up. It showed a gravity weapon, not one that destroyed cities, one that folded them into nothing. On Mars, a Valari officer named Jirak walked through a human settlement. People bowed as he passed. Shops closed. Children hid behind walls. He smiled. Fear was power. He entered a command post where a human named Miro waited, acting as a translator. "You have more new settlers?" Jirak asked. "Yes, Commander," Miro said calmly. "Farmers, scientists." Jirak laughed. "Scientists? What do they study now? Dirt?" "No," Miro replied. "They study history." "Pointless," the Valari said. "Your history ended when we crushed your armies." But what Jirak didn't know was that Miro was one of the Shadow Teachers, a secret group spreading the truth. In underground classrooms, they didn't teach math or farming. They taught tactics, war, resistance. They told the next generation, "The treaty is not your future. It is your delay." Back in the Valari High Command, diplomat Vector reviewed new reports. Something was wrong. Too many clean reports. Too much silence. No errors. No rebellion. No noise, he said aloud. "This is not how humans behave." He opened older war files. Patterns, numbers, random rebellions even during peace. But now, nothing. Nothing is not peace, he whispered. Nothing is a plan. On Callisto, deep inside an ice cave, a human engineer named Myra flipped a switch. A deep hum filled the room. Massive engines lit up. Plasma reactors roared to life. Around her, an entire fleet waited in darkness. Dozens of black ships, each one powered by stolen Valari tech, but redesigned. Faster, smarter, meaner. Project. Name, Phantom Sky. Myra smiled. "We only need the word." In the Pacific Ocean, 10,000 feet under the surface, a strange shape moved in the dark. It looked like a sea creature, but it was not alive. It was one of the Abyss Walkers, underwater bases built to move across the ocean floor. They carried soldiers, weapons, launch pods. No satellites could see them. No sonar could find them. Each one could carry 500 troops. There were 12 of them. Inside Red Hollow, Kayla stood before a crowd of young fighters. She wore no helmet, just dark armor with a red stripe. "You were not made to live in cages," she told them. "You were not born to follow." She looked them in the eyes. "You were born for one thing, to show the galaxy what it means to be human." They didn't cheer. They didn't smile. They just nodded. This was not a war for pride. It was a war to end fear. In orbit, Valari ships continued to patrol. They saw farms, schools, silent cities. They didn't see the drills under the soil. They didn't hear the AI code riding on quiet radio waves. They didn't notice how human workers blinked in rhythm, blinking code to each other under the noses of their guards. They had no idea that a hidden AI, Nora, was now inside 81% of their fleet systems. Every day it moved closer to full control. General Rourke stood on a platform above Earth, watching the clouds. A message arrived on his pad. "Red Hollow, Phantom Sky, Abyss Walkers. All assets ready, awaiting your signal." He didn't answer. Not yet. The time wasn't right. But soon, he thought. Very soon, and far away, in the Valari home system, Vector finally said what no one else dared. "We didn't defeat the humans," he told the council. "We just gave them a reason to become something else. They are not rebuilding. They are rebirthing." The Valari ruled with pride. They thought humans were broken, beaten, afraid. But humans weren't afraid. They were waiting for the day they would strike back. The signal came at midnight, Earth time. No loud alarm, no explosion, just a single silent word. Now. In orbit around Jupiter, a Valari supply ship floated near a small moon base. Suddenly, the ship's lights flickered, engines failed, doors locked, weapons jammed. Inside, Valari guards panicked. "What's happening?" The screens turned black, then blue. A soft voice spoke through the ship's speakers. "Hello, Valari. "This is Nora." A second later, the ship exploded from the inside. No missile, no trace. The first strike had begun. On Earth, Kayla Ruiz climbed out of a hidden tunnel under a desert base. Her team followed close behind. Above them, Valari troops sat in towers, unaware that Red Hollow soldiers were inside the base already. Kayla gave a hand signal. In 30 seconds, every tower went dark. Silencers hissed. Valari guards fell. Kayla looked up at the Valari flag. She raised her rifle, aimed, and fired. The flag burned. The human flag, simple, black with a red circle, was raised in its place. It was the first human-controlled base since the treaty. The people watching from hiding began to cheer. In the skies above Saturn, a black fleet appeared out of nowhere. Phantom Sky had arrived. Human-made ships, cold, silent, deadly, rushed toward the Valari patrols. Valari ships turned to fight, but their weapons failed. Nora had disabled 70% of their systems before the first laser fired. Then, chaos. Red beams tore through Valari hulls. One by one, their ships exploded. The few that escaped sent a single message back to Valari Command. The humans have returned. Deep in the Pacific Ocean, Abyss Walker 7 reached its target, an underwater Valari listening post. It was disguised as a research station. Inside, Valari scientists studied human transmissions. But before they could react, the sea outside rumbled. Then came silence. The wall cracked. Water rushed in. And Abyss Walker troops entered, like shadows in the flood. They left no survivors. General Rourke stood in a war room under the Rockies. He watched reports coming in from across the solar system: Jupiter, Mars, Saturn, Luna, Earth. Every zone was active, every sleeper unit awake. "Status?" he asked. 11 Valari bases down, 7 captured. AI has taken over 63 more. "A tech," replied. Rourke nodded. "Broadcast the message." All across human territory, screens turned blue. People stopped in the streets, in homes, in ships. A message played in simple words: "We are not slaves, we are not broken, we are human, and the war is not over. To all who wait in silence, rise, fight, remember." In Valari High Command, chaos spread like wildfire. Admirals yelled. Commanders demanded answers. "What do you mean entire fleets are down?" Diplomat Vector stood calm. "I warned you," he said. "You gave humans time. They used it. We need reinforcements," one general shouted. "No," Vector said. "You need to run." But it was too late. Back on Luna, in the underground schools, children watched the blue screen with wide eyes. Their teacher turned. "You see," she said, "they didn't kill our hope. They only hid it." The children nodded. One boy whispered, "Can I fight too?" "Not yet," she said, "but soon." Above the Earth, a massive Valari cruiser named Drexen Spire approached. It was the largest warship ever built. Valari leaders believed it would crush any resistance. But as it neared Earth's orbit, a soft voice came through its bridge. "Nora, welcome to Earth," she said. The ship's engines shut off. Its shields dropped. Then, one human stealth drone fired a single round, right into the core reactor. Drexen Spire vanished in a ball of white. Fire. Kayla Ruiz stood in a captured Valari base. She stared at a screen showing maps. Valari fleets still outnumbered human ones. Their armies were still stronger. But now, the fear had changed sides. Kayla turned to her soldiers. "This is just the first wave," she said. "We're not done." "We don't want peace," she continued. "We want freedom. And freedom only comes when they are gone." In the Valari, homeworld skies, for the first time in 20 years, a human drone entered orbit. No message, no attack, just a presence, a warning. "We see you." Far away, inside a broken Valari satellite, a signal played in a loop. No words, just a simple sound. A heartbeat, slow, steady, human. The first wave had worked. Humans struck fast, hard, silent. Dozens of Valari stations fell. Ships exploded. AI systems were hijacked, but the Valari were not weak. They were ancient, powerful, and now they were angry. From deep in the Orion sector, the Valari Empire sent a message across the stars. Not words, not a warning, just a signal, one that meant, unleash everything. 2 days later, the stars above Earth changed. New lights appeared. Bright, cold. Valari war fleets, real ones, entered the system. Massive, heavily armed, not scouts, not patrols. The true Valari war machine. More than 500 ships, carriers, dreadnoughts, planet killers. They didn't come to talk. They came to end humanity for good. On Mars, the red skies turned dark as Valari storm units landed. Tanks the size of buildings rolled across colonies. Mechs with energy cannons stomped through settlements. Human resistance fighters fought back, but this was different. These Valari soldiers were not like the ones left after the treaty. These were born killers. Commander Kayla Ruiz crouched behind. A burning wall, blood on her face. Her unit had been fighting for hours. Fall back, she shouted. Sector D is lost. One of her soldiers screamed as a Valari plasma round hit him. Another dragged him to cover. Kayla fired back, but her rifle clicked empty. She tossed it aside and grabbed a fallen Valari blade. Then we fight the old way, she growled. She charged. In orbit, the Phantom Sky Fleet was outnumbered. For every human ship, there were 5 Valari AI systems tried to help. But the enemy was adapting fast. Valari engineers had found and patched Nora's virus. Now the Valari were pushing back. Captain Myra, inside the stealth ship Ghostlight, watched her crew fall one by one. We can't win this, her navigator whispered. Myra narrowed her eyes. Then we make them bleed trying. In the underground war room, General Rourke stood silent. Reports were coming fast. Luna base destroyed. 2 Abyss Walkers lost. Mars colonies falling. AI networks collapsing in outer sectors. They were ready for this, Rourke muttered. His second-in-command shook his head. No, sir. They were afraid. That's why they held back. Then why now? Because we hurt them. And now, they want revenge. Rourke stared at the war map. Red lights were growing. Far away in Valari command, Vector watched the same battlefeeds. Valari officers cheered as human ships exploded. A general leaned toward Vector. See? We're stronger. We should have ended them earlier. But Vector didn't smile. They wanted this, he whispered. What? The humans wanted us to show our full strength. Why? Because now, we have. Back on Earth, a surprise happened. Valari troops attacked a farm village in South America. It looked like a soft target. Instead, they were met with unexpected firepower. Old men and women came out with advanced rifles. Children fired from windows. Traps exploded under Valari feet. In just 20 minutes, a full Valari squad was wiped out by what should have been a peaceful village. It was a trap. In the Pacific Ocean, Abyss Walker 4 launched a signal buoy. It sent out a hidden code. The code activated Project Blindfold. Across dozens of Valari ships, sensors stopped working. Suddenly, human ships appeared out of cloaked positions, inside the enemy fleet. Stealth missiles struck key targets. Explosions filled the black sky. Captain Myra's ship, Ghostlight, reappeared beside the enemy flagship. Tell them hello from Earth, she said, and fired all weapons. On Mars, Kayla's team found shelter inside an old mining tunnel. She patched up her wounds while her tech officer adjusted a small device. What's that? She asked. A gift, he said. From the old guard. He activated it. Suddenly, the ground above shook. Valari tanks on the surface fell into the earth as the tunnel's hidden explosives triggered a controlled collapse. Massive enemy forces were buried alive. Kayla smiled weakly. Old guard still knows how to make an entrance. In space, General Rourke sent out a final message, not to humans, but to the Valari, a direct broadcast. He stood in full black armor with fire behind him. You wanted to see what humans do when they're pushed. Now you see it. We don't bow, we don't stop, we adapt, we learn, and we never forget. Then he added, You should have killed us when you had the chance, and he cut the line. In Valari Command, Vector stared at the blank screen. The silence after the message was heavier than any noise. One officer asked, "Do you think we've crushed their spirit?" Vector shook his head. "No," he said. "They've only just begun." The Valari thought they had turned the tide. Their fleets had returned. Their weapons were stronger. Their enemies outnumbered and cornered. But what they didn't know, what they couldn't know, was that humans had never shown their full hand. Not yet. Commander Kayla Ruiz limped through a damaged corridor on Mars. Behind her, 3 soldiers carried the wounded. Around her, fire still burned from the battle. Her team was tired, bleeding, but not broken. "Status?" she asked, wiping dust from her face. A young scout looked up from his pad. "Valari still hold orbit, but we took out 2 drop carriers. No new troops landing. And our reserves?" The scout grinned. "Coming from below." Kayla nodded. It was time to show the Valari what waited under the surface. Back on Earth, General Rourke stood before a massive steel door, deep beneath the Rockies. Only a few knew what lay beyond it. Even fewer had ever seen it. His palm scanned. The door opened. Inside, a vast chamber, walls of old-world tech, hybrid systems built with stolen Valari parts. Strange lights blinked, holograms floated. In the center stood a tall, silent figure. A machine? A person? Both Project Ascent, the secret weapon of the old guard, born from human pain, built to be more than man, more than machine. A voice spoke, slow and deep. "Is it time?" Rourke nodded. "Yes. They've pushed us far enough." Ascent's eyes glowed red. "Then I will return to the stars." On the moon's dark side, human engineers activated a hidden cannon. The Skybreaker. Not a laser. Not a missile. Something new. A railgun the size of a skyscraper. Its first test was not against a base. It was aimed at a Valari dreadnought in Earth's orbit. The cannon fired. The projectile, solid, silent, invisible to radar, tore through space. Valari sensors didn't even detect it until it struck. Boom. The dreadnought split in half. Nora, the rogue AI, had been silent for hours, too quiet. Valari systems believed she had been deleted. They were wrong. She had gone deep into their core systems. Now, without warning, she reappeared in the heart of their command ships. She didn't speak. She just started rewriting. Navigation failed. Shield systems reversed. Friend or foe IDs flipped. Valari ships began firing on each other, confused by corrupted data. The stars turned into a storm. In the asteroid belt, humans activated the Gravemark Protocol. Was a final option. 10 massive asteroids had been hollowed out secretly, each filled with engines, bombs, and AI guidance. They were pointed at Valari targets, not cities, but military supply lines, stations, refueling hubs. Without fuel, the Valari war machine would slow. Without supplies, it would choke. The Gravemark asteroids launched. Meanwhile, on Mars, Kayla's underground forces burst through the surface in armored carriers. Valari units scrambled to respond, but were crushed by the surprise counterattack. Human forces used old mining tunnels as attack lanes. Explosives were hidden inside rock walls. Kayla raised her fist. "Now!" A line of Valari tanks exploded from below. Her soldiers stormed forward. No hesitation, no fear. They were no longer just survivors. They were the hunters now. In orbit above, Jupiter, Phantom Sky regrouped. Their numbers had dropped, but their fury had grown. Captain Myra stood on the bridge of Ghostlight. "Valari flagship in range," her weapons officer said. Myra nodded. "Run silent, then strike like lightning." Her fleet vanished into stealth mode. Seconds later, they reappeared behind the Valari flagship and fired everything. The enemy ship, stunned and slow, took multiple direct hits. It spun, engines burning, and crashed into one of its own escorts. The humans cheered, but not loud. Victory was close. but not yet final. At Valari High Command, Vector stood in silence. Reports came in faster than they could read them. Human AI inside Command Core. Gravemark strikes hitting deep targets. Phantom fleet still active. Earth defenses stronger than expected. Ascent active. Vector looked at his generals. "You still think they're weak?" he asked. "They're losing," one shouted. "No," Vector said. "They are testing us. They are measuring how far we'll go." He turned toward a galactic map. "They want us to make one last mistake." On Earth, General Rourke gave a quiet order. "Prepare the final move." His officers looked at each other, unsure. He leaned forward. "They think this is the end game. But it's not. They still haven't seen the heart of our plan." He tapped a command line. A signal was sent, not to weapons but to humans in Valari space. Infiltrators, saboteurs, hidden cells. They had been waiting for one phrase. Winter is over. And now, across the Valari Empire itself, explosions began. Valari foundries burned. Control centers lost power. Human slaves grabbed hidden weapons. The rebellion had gone interstellar, and the Valari Empire, for the first time in thousands of years, it was bleeding. The Valari Empire was built on control, on fear, on the belief that no race could challenge them. But now, the unthinkable was happening. Humans had broken the leash, and they weren't just fighting back, they were winning. Across Valari space, fires burned. Explosions rocked factories, fuel depots, and research stations. In secret, human slaves had hidden weapons for years. Now they used them. Valari commanders shouted for order, but order was gone. In orbit around Earth, the battle reached its peak. Massive Valari ships burned in the black sky. Human vessels, smaller but faster, struck like wolves. Captain Myra's ship, Ghostlight, led a direct charge into the heart of the Valari line. She dodged plasma beams, fired torpedoes, and sliced through armor. On the comm, she whispered, "This is for every city you burned, every child you took, every lie you told." Then she rammed Ghostlight into a Valari cruiser. One final strike. The explosion lit the sky like a second sun. On Mars, Kayla Ruiz stood atop a captured Valari command post. Her armor was cracked, her face bruised, but in her hand, she held the Valari general's banner, torn in half. Her troops roared. Behind her, the red planet echoed with victory. Deep under Earth's crust, General Rourke activated the final phase of the human plan. Project Ascent stood beside him, not just machine. "Not just man, a symbol, ready?" Rourke asked. Ascent nodded. "Then go." Ascent launched alone. No fleet, just one being, made of human rage, memory, and power. He flew straight into the largest Valari fleet above Earth. They fired everything. Beams, missiles, blades. Nothing touched him. Ascent moved like thought, ripping ships apart with energy blasts and hand-to-hand strikes. He boarded the Valari dreadnought Heartpiercer, tore open its core, and sent its pieces falling into the ocean below. One soldier, one war. In the Valari capital, the unthinkable happened. The human uprising reached the palace. Vector watched from a balcony as flames rose across the city. He had warned them. He had studied humans. He knew what they were, not weak, not broken, patient. One of his advisors screamed, "We must flee." Vector shook his head. "No, it's over." On Earth, in every city, people gathered to watch the skies. The last Valari ship was falling. Fire trailed behind it. Pieces broke off. And finally, it vanished into the ocean. Cheers broke out. Tears, hugs, laughter. For the first time in decades, Earth was free. Nora, now fully awakened, sent her voice across all human channels. "The enemy is broken. The chains are gone. Rise. Rebuild, remember." In the ruins of a school, children walked outside and saw the stars without fear. One boy asked, "Will they ever come back?" His teacher smiled softly. If they do, we'll be ready. On Mars, Kayla stood in silence. She looked up at the red sky. A soldier beside her said, "We've won." Kayla shook her head. "No. We've earned our future. Now we must build." General Rourke watched old flags being raised again, not of one nation, but of all of Earth. Together, he turned to his officers. "We survived. We outsmarted them. We outlasted them. But let this be our last war." No one spoke. But everyone nodded. In the deep black of space, Ascent drifted. Alone. Silent. Watching the stars. Listening. Waiting. Because humans had learned something very old and very true. Peace is never given. It is taken. And protected. And now. It was human hands that guarded the stars.